Hi, I'm Indigo Doyle. I'm a 3D artist and creative director at my company, Pushing Vertices, which is based in Mississauga, Ontario. And previously, I also founded and hosted the Indie Mixer, which was a speed networking event for local indie game developers in Toronto to connect and collaborate. So my current role is really relaxed and allows me to be really independent and also really flex my creative skills and artistic abilities, which makes me really excited. I also really like including a lot of personal things into my work, which I can do because I am the creative director, which is awesome. I would say the most crucial skills are being able to be personable with other people, networking, and good communication as well. Yes. So for expectations, the good expectations that I had that differed are every day being insanely exciting, where you're working on something that really is just super exciting all day, where in reality you might be working on something like documentation for a while. Not that that's not a good thing to do. It's just it's not the most exciting. And then there is also the expectation that you might be stuck doing just documentation the whole time. And in reality, there's also times when you get to have a really exciting feature that you're working on or something that you've been working on for a while finally comes together and pieces into this beautiful thing that you've created. So, advice for someone who is new, I would say start everything you can early. Starting at any point is hard, but if you're really new to it, I think it's almost better because you have no other sort of like bad habits or preconceived notions. You can kind of just jump into things. So, starting with just whatever interests you and then going from there, I think is the best option. And then starting from another industry, I would say it's never too late or too early to sort of pivot over. There's always a lot of industries that have overlapping skill sets. And also, that sort of adds to the diversity of the game dev scene. There's people that don't always have the same background, which can open up a lot of things that people might not think about as traditional game developers. You might not be thinking of the certain ways that you could implement other ways of thinking into game development. So one lesson that I wish I knew is that certain things do not matter. There's a lot of times when you're focused on one thing, you're like, this is the most important thing, and you need that small detail. And in the long run, that is not something you need to focus on. I think one of the best quotes that I can think of is "It's all oatmeal," which is described as if you're creating a bowl of oatmeal, you can sit there and paint every single oat to look different, but at the end of the day, it's all oatmeal. So you don't really need to be sitting there focusing on each individual flake because the user is still going to just see oatmeal at the end of the day. So the first steps that I took were working with a lot of other indie developers in the industry and in the local community to sort of get a feel for things that people do regularly that are like status quo, and then also feel for things that I wanted to implement specifically within my company. So I say the number one way that I learned the experience that I sort of lean on today is just doing things. I know that sounds like really common to say, but just getting through and doing some tutorials, or if you can find freelance work or just completing personal projects, is definitely the best way to learn, at least for myself. I did go to school, but I found that the most that I learned was in practice after graduating. So the main skills that I would say are required for being a creative director are being personable and being able to effectively communicate with team members, as well as being able to effectively receive constructive feedback so that you can apply that to the project. And then technical skills is learning more about the fields that you're going to be overseeing. such as narrative design or level design, so that you can effectively communicate what needs to be done with other team members. So this one's a tricky question because it does advance so quickly. I would say constantly, well, not constantly, but continuously watching sort of like tutorials or looking at what other people are doing and seeing the techniques that they use is one of the main ways that I like to stay up to date on things that are happening. And when I do have the time, tackling new software. But that one's kind of a big one. The main advice I would have is to continue exploring things within the artistic world instead of focusing on a specific genre or art style, is to continue sort of expanding your knowledge and interest base so that when you do come into the role, you have a large base to grow from. For a career transition, I would suggest sticking with a single focus and starting from there. Say, if you're trying to learn 3D modeling, start watching Blender tutorials. And then as you start doing that, you start to grow in that area. And working in Blender can also lead to a lot of other things that you start to learn and pick up. And before you know it, you've already basically transitioned at that point. If I was looking to hire somebody, I would be looking for them to be personable and be able to work well with others on the team, as well as hoping that they would have a willingness to learn and be able to grow within the role, as well as teach others what they know and learn from others.